Okay dokie, we're almost ready. Just waiting for it to catch up and tell me that everything is working well. Waiting for the countdown. Countdown is beginning and ho! There we go. Fortunately, we now have some indication that things are currently up online. We are online and going to just click over here so I can see what's going on. There it is. Alright, so I'm getting rid of the earplugs because apparently you can hear my ridiculous voice, and that means that things are working fine. I apologize for the shade. I do have lamps actually pointing at my table, and I've tried to sort of position my camera so that I get the natural light like over here, but it's not working, or over here should I say, over here, but it's shifting around and there's not an awful lot I can do about it. Now you guys you're welcome to ask me questions and chat with me while I do this, because for the umpteenth time I've tried to make this work. So I'm going to start. Let's get cracking. If there's issues with the sound, well, let me know. If there's issues with the video, then just let me know. But let's get started. Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I'm going to assemble my purple worm miniature from Gale Force 9. And I've got a little picture up there of the parts that come with the actual miniature and sort of what the final result is supposed to look like. I'm hoping that the final result will look like this, but this is actually not the first time I've actually tried to assemble this particular miniature. There's actually 4 parts. There's the base. It comes with a base. It comes with this section, which you don't have to do very much with. It just is. That's it. And trying to connect this so that it stays has been very frustrating. This is actually in 2 parts, and for some reason this bit has actually managed to hold together, but I'm having trouble connecting it to here so it stays in place, and that's because it's a big hollow area, and then I've got a big flat area. Flat areas are awesome. I can put a pin through that, and you know, I've got a bigger gluing surface, but it's just not been working. So today I'm going to resort to I guess you might say I'm going to resort to doing things slightly differently, which is why I have the hot glue gun. I know, Fred, you should be using super glue or a resin glue, because this is a resin miniature and you should be using something that can deal with that. And I have, honestly, I've done it more than a few times and it keeps coming apart on me, so I'm going to do something slightly different. So the tools that I have are my glue gun, my glue sticks. I've got a whole bunch of tin foil, so that I'm going to actually jam this in the hole here so I can build this out so I've got something to actually glue onto later on. So I'm using that tin foil. Because I don't expect anything to hold together, I've got my paper clips so I can create pins, and yes, I do have my citadel drill so that I can drill a hole for the pins. So I'll get that out of the way. And I will be using some putty to try to fill up any gaps if I get time. I might need to do that at a later date. Just depends on how fast everything dries. But yeah, I've got my citadel crafting sculpty tool things. And as usual, I'll be using this stuff, this milliput. I could use the green stuff, but it's more expensive, and I kind of figure this is going to be a better option. So welcome to my attempt at doing this for the umpteenth time. I'm going to just shuffle some things out of the way now that I've shown you. I mean, look, all of the materials and tools that I'm going to be using are in the description, so that's not really going to be an issue in terms of, you know, what did I use. I've also got some pliers for the paper clips so that I can straighten them out, cut things off. So my first job is I want to try to make sure that this section here will glue in place, and there's supposed to be this nice little indentation that lines up with the little bit that's sticking out. I don't know if you can tell, but the base of this here is actually really, really thin. And honestly, I'm surprised I haven't broken through it like a couple of times so far. So what I'm going to do is I will be using hot glue to attach this. How's it going, Christian? Yay, another miniatures building stream. Well, this is more an assembly. I wouldn't say I'm building a purple worm. I'm just trying to assemble what I have. These Gale Force 9 miniatures are actually really expensive. And if I did things differently, I wouldn't do this. I'd just make my own, which I think would have been a sensible thing to do. But I'm going to try and glue that in place. I can tell that there's quite a lot of air gaps underneath there, so I'm going to squirt quite a bit of glue in there, and there's probably going to be a whole lot of residue I have to cut away later on. So that's the first thing. So let's get started. And hopefully my glue gun is all fired up and the glue is going to come through nice and quickly. I've got to do this fairly quickly because if I don't, it's going to set, and then I'm going to have to do it again, which would just suck. Come on, you. Squirt out. Squirt out, because I only have seconds before it's going to set. And I can't really sort of do it in batches, can I? I've just got one shot wonder, and then that's it. And okay, so it's sitting in roughly the right place, I feel like. And we're going to hold it in place and just make sure that it sets in place. I'm not going to be using glue, the hot glue gun around this section here. I'm going to try and use the putty and fill in the gaps once it's set in place. Whew. It's a warm day here in New Zealand. I don't know how everybody else is. I'm assuming that you're either up doing your own projects, painting and modeling, making stuff. But I really wanted to actually have this. Look, the final result could be awesome if I could get it right. And I haven't even ever managed to get as far as priming and painting this thing. That is still setting. I can see that there's a whole lot of warping taking place underneath because of the hot glue gun. That's how thin the plastic is, or the resin underneath. It's really, really thin. So what I thought I would do later on is I'm going to grab a base and glue a base onto this to make the base a little bit thicker and a bit more durable, because I don't feel that the base of this is going to be good enough. Alright, so that is still setting. I'm going to leave that for now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a line of glue. You can see the seam inside. I'm going to put a line of hot glue in there to hold it in place, let that set, and then I'm going to start shoving tin foil in there and build it out so that I've got two reasonably flat surfaces to glue them together with. Pinning from this side and that side would actually be really, really hard. I'm not even going to try and attempt that. I'm going to see if I can get away with just two flat surfaces to glue with. So let's do that. This is a really hoary method. This is not really what you're supposed to do. When you're putting a resin miniature together, if my brother saw what I was doing, he'd be furious. But he's not here. He hardly watches my videos. He'll never know. Don't tell him, please. Okay. Alright. That's got the gist of it done, and we just wait for that to set. Bit of blowing, waiting for it to dry. Oh, I managed to do this stream because everybody has left the house, which is good for me because I get to just hang out and do what I like doing, which is, I actually like painting. I'm not very good at painting. My eyes aren't very good, my hands aren't very good, but I like making stuff. And a lot of these miniature or monster miniature making videos that I've done have been really fun to do. And it's like going back to when I was like in my 20s. I'm not going to say how old I am. Or when I was sort of like a late teenager, or you know, in that realm where I used to do this sort of thing, and it was really, really fun for me, and I enjoyed it, and it helps me relax. I don't know about you, but I actually find it quite relaxing. Okay, let's see if this thing is dried. It was my little tool that I like to do the pokey thing with. There it is, and let's just test it down here. Nah, still pretty soft, so we'll wait a little bit longer. And while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to see if I've got a base. I might have a base the right size already for this thing, which means I get to stick it on today, which would be awesome. Is that the right size? That's the thing. Ha! Alright, so we will be attaching a new base to this. So, how did I get this base? This is just a piece of man-made board. I'll just move that out of the way so you can see what's going on. So this is a piece of man-made board. It's MDF board. It's not very good stuff, you know, it expands and swells when it gets wet, but it's about 5mm thick. And I used a hole saw and a drill press, and I just cut it out and then sanded the edges. And that makes a really cheap base. I don't know how you guys have found the market for buying large bases, but this is like, I think it would be classified as between huge, not quite gargantuan, but huge size. I don't know why the camera did that, sorry about that. But this is a cheap way of doing it. You just get a piece of man-made board, a hole saw. The real expense is buying the hole saw, and if you don't have a drill press, just use a hand drill, you know, a power drill. I wouldn't advise using a cordless drill. I'd get a cord drill because they've got more torque and more power, and you just clamp everything down and just cut them out. And yeah, saves you a lot of money. I mean, one sheet of board will get me a lot of bases, which is what I'm going to do very shortly. I'm going to cut out like tons and tons of large size bases because I just don't have enough large size bases right now. Okay, let's just check to see if this thing is actually going to stay in place. It's mostly set. It's still a little bit soft at the bottom there, but we can leave that a little bit. I'm pretty sure by now this will have attached and stuck in place, and I feel like that's going to be much more secure than the previous attempts that I've made. So now I'm going to attach this onto my new base to make it a little bit stronger, which means I've got a hot glue. Actually, I don't think I'm going to attach the hot glue to this surface because I feel like it'll warp even more. What I'll do is I'll attach it here and then plonk it down, which means I've got to make sure that I've got enough hot glue coming through fast enough. Okay, starting from the middle, working my way out to the outside. Let's just try and do circles. I think that's probably the best way to get more coverage that way. There's no way I'll be able to cover the entire surface. Yep. And squeeze and squeeze. And of course the stick isn't necessarily going to heat up fast enough to be able to feed it through, so I will probably have to slow down. And I'm not going to go right to the outside edge because there should be a little bit of bleed over. It'll squeeze out a little bit. Alright, let's get it on. Get it into place and just hold it there for a sec. And there's a little bit of glue that sort of, I don't want to touch it or I'll burn myself, right? So let's just see if I can just scrape that away. I can probably cut it away with a knife later. I don't need to freak out about it too much. And that's essentially just made my base a whole lot stronger, which I should hopefully reap the benefits of. I'm just going to get rid of that. That's fine. Cool. Nice. Everything seems to be working out pretty well so far. Now I know a few of you are probably wondering, okay, so Fred, why did you not feed a pin from underneath into this thing? Like I said, when I showed you the underneath of this, it's really, really thin. It's not holding anything. If I was to pin this, I'd have to probably pin it from the side, and I'd have to go through the outside of it, which means there's probably going to be a little bit of damage to the base section. So I'm not going to even bother trying to do that at this present time. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just skip that idea and only pin it if I absolutely have to. And when I pin it, I'll pin it through this nice thick board because that'll have a lot more holding strength than that thin piece that came with the resin miniature. Okay, alright, let's grab some tin foil. So this is going to make a whole bunch of noise, so if you're expecting me to talk while I do this, it's just not going to be practical. I'm going to just push this off to the side. And the plan is to fill up this with tin foil, one because it's light and it's cheap. You know, if I were to fill this up with putty and then wait for it to dry, it'd take forever. But I can get away with filling it up, pull out the piece after, put some glue in there, shove it back in, and then it'll set in place, and I've got a reasonably solid surface. And if I'm not happy with the contact surface being tin foil, I can then put some hardening putty over it and fill that in, and then attach it later, which may be what I do. We'll see how we go. Oh. I've got to be careful that I don't let the tinfoil come too far out, otherwise it's going to get in the way of the other side of the miniature when I need to actually connect it. So I might need to have a little bit of a hollow there. And my idea was I'd use the tinfoil and then I'll put some putty in here, and then the putty, because it's soft, will actually, when I press it into here, will squash up, and I'll see, should be able to sort of create a natural contact point, just because the putty's so soft, whereas the tinfoil's not going to move around quite as much. It's because it's not soft. It's going to be, you know, it's a bit denser, particularly since I'm sort of pushing it into this space. Okay, so I've built that up a little bit, and that'll reduce the amount of putty I need to shove in there. I just want to build out that a little bit more. Okay, there we go. I think that isn't too bad. Alright, so I'm going to take all the pieces out, and I'm going to kind of, what's on top of that? So if I pull it out in sort of a sequence, I'll just go one after the other and glue them all back in place. That's the plan. Okay, alright, let's see if this works. A little bit in the back, doesn't need to be a lot. That's that one there, and then of course shove it in there fairly quickly before it sets. And of course I'm too late, right, because I didn't move fast enough. The heat's probably going to transfer into the aluminium foil, tin foil, whatever you want to call it. Alright, and I'm just going to press that in, use my tool. I use my finger most of the time, but it's actually not too hot, which is good. Alright, so that's got part of it. That's going to go in next, and we'll chuck in some more glue, and then, come on you, just go in the hole. You know you want to go in the hole. In the hole, there we go. Alright, and press that in. Oh. This is, I don't think this is a standard method for assembling the purple worm. So if you were expecting like a video on the standard method, no, I don't have a standard method for you, sorry. This is me trying to solve the problems that I had trying to put it together the first time around. Oh, why did that move? I'm sure that feels quite hot. We'll just pull that out again. Is that glued in place? Ah, there's another layer, that's what it is. I'll pull this out and chuck a bit more glue in. Right, so can you guys hear my washing machine going? I'm pretty sure it will finish now, so you won't hear the spinning cycle. trying to do my housework at the same time. Alright. So I'm just pressing it down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the more I press it in, the denser it'll be, and hopefully the more packed out it will be, so I don't have to put so much putty in there. I don't want to have to use a lot of putty if I can help it. And I could use the green stuff, which would set faster, but I'm going to use the milliput, which probably means that attaching this to here today might be a little bit difficult. I don't think that's going to be practical. But I can also, while I'm waiting for that to set, I can get in here and start tidying it up and filling up the gaps with putty. That's the time-consuming thing. I mean, gluing it together and assembling, it's easy. It's filling all the gaps, and there's quite a lot of gaps. It's not a super duper fantastic construction method that they've used when they've put this thing together, as far as I can tell. All right, it's just, no, that's the wrong way around. There we go. That's better. There's nothing getting in the way. It's the main thing. So can I afford to put more tin foil in there? I probably can. See, so you can see how the miniature, there's no real good contact point in terms of fixing it. And that could be because of the glue I've used in the past. But I never found there was a good contact point when I first got the miniature anyway. So, yeah, it's going to be one of those. I feel like the putty is going to be the solution to making sure I can actually get a decent firm section to attach to. I'm just scraping a bit of glue off. Yeah. Is there anything there? There's a little bit of something. It's the build up from the previous attempts at gluing it. Okay, alright, I'm going to get my knife. I think I did say I was going to be using a knife in this. And I'm going to scrape. I don't think, well, should I slice? I'm slicing towards myself, right? Shouldn't be doing that. Wait. Yeah, I'm just gonna scrape along here and just tidy up that surface. Okay. Okay, I'm going to definitely put some more tin foil in here. I think that's going to be a good fixing point. I can build that out a bit more, and then I'll use my putty, and we'll create a nice sort of cavity that has got a nice flat space. Alright. Sorry if I'm not in the middle of the screen. I kind of forget that I need to make sure my hands are in the middle of the screen. Okay, well, that's filled out that side nicely. I think I'll glue that in place. There we go. Right, I'm just going to wait for that to set a little bit, and I'm going to just tidy my workspace up a little bit, because it's time to start mixing up so that milliput, so I can fill that and then make sure that it all lines up at this end. Which means I can probably turn off my glue gun, get rid of the glue gun so I don't burn myself. That would be good, wouldn't it? Let's just shift that out of the way. There There we go. I can now move around here without burning my arms. Alright, so first of all, let's just brush off all the little bits of glue that I managed to get everywhere, so it's not in the way. I've only just got myself one of these self-healing cutting mats, and I got the Army Painter one. It was actually reasonably cheap, and considering its size it seemed like the best choice, but there's a whole bunch out there. Right, next, a milliput. Here we go, this is it. So I use this stuff because it's cheap and it takes a little bit time. It takes a lot longer to dry than the green stuff, but it still does a reasonably good job. So I think the only difference is it's not as flexible. It dries a lot harder, and because it dries harder, it can sort of break a little bit easily. It doesn't have any give. If you try to sort of twist it or shift it after it dries, snap or crack. It tends to crack. I find that happens quite a bit. But yeah, you're not really supposed to do that, right? You're not supposed to go putting stress on things. I'm just guessing here about how much I'm going to need. I mean, I'm going to have time to be able to mix up more if I absolutely have to, but it would be nice if I didn't have to do it more than once. I don't think that's quite the same amount of quantity. Let's just add a bit more. Alright, I think that's alright. I'll get rid of this stuff. And now it's just a matter of mashing it together so it's one consistent colour. And it just takes a little while. I don't honestly know. I mean, are these the sorts of videos that people like? I know I like doing it. I mean, I just hang out sometimes and I just like doing this sort of stuff. But is there really an interest in watching people do this sort of stuff? Because these videos get quite long. You can sit here for like an hour or two. I mean, some of my videos have been 2.5 hours as I try to make something. It's so warm, and I can't afford to. I've opened up all of the windows and the doors in the house, but I can't open the window to this little office or studio. I'm told it's supposed to be called a studio. I call it a studio office, but essentially if I open it up, all of the wind coming through hits the microphone and all you hear is this sort of blowing noise. Which is why I kept the window closed. Okay, I think that's working pretty well. I'm just going to make sure I got it thoroughly mixed up, because once it's done, it's done. I won't really be able to do anything else with it. And it's not like making a miniature where you could add a little bit more later on. If I don't get the right shape the first time around, it's all over, because it's absolutely solid. Once it gets in there, it's really hard to remove. I mean, it's brittle, but you'd still have to hack it out. Okay, alright, so first thing is I've got so I can cut off the excess. I just need to sort of fill the location and then jam it in there, jam it together and see where I need to remove stuff. Seems simple, right? So it's in the hole, pressed it in, and then we press this onto here and try to get a good, nice fit. And if there's any spaces, hopefully that'll be shown once I remove it from my miniature base section. Alright, it's got an imprint, so, and the imprint looks pretty close to what is there. I feel like that's actually worked really, really well. That should give me a really good contact point. I'm going to do that one more time. Okay, it almost wants to stick on, but I know that's just not going to happen, so I will peel it away. Make sure I press it down if it's started to peel away out of the cavity. Okay, so there it is. So now I have 2 points of contact so I can glue together so that the thing will hopefully not fall apart. Ha ha! Knew it would work. Well, we'll know if it works in the second one, right? When I actually, because this will take like a couple of hours to dry hard and then fully hard in a day or two. So yeah, I might have to wait a little while before I get to that, but that's all right. And that's that done. So cool. All right, I'm happy with that. All right, so I need to create some more putty, and I'm going to start filling in around here and using my little tool to squish it into the cavities that have been left. So that's the next job. So I don't think I'm going to need quite as much for this. I mean, these cavities are pretty large in some places, but I think a lot less. So I'm just going to go with a pinch, and I'll make up more if this isn't enough. I think that's more like it. Match it up. That's a little bit small, a bit more. Okay. Fractionally more. So I ball them up so that I can sort of compare the two balls, and if they're about the same size, that's what I'm ready to mix them. And let's take these and squeeze them together. And you can see the shades moved. You can see where the shade is hitting. Oh, see where the shade is hitting the mat. It was a little bit further over, and now it's almost at the edge. So it's about 1 PM in New Zealand. I don't know what time it is where everybody else is, but that means the sun's at its zenith about an hour ago, and it's really hot. Cicadas are chirping. Surprisingly, nobody's decided to start up a chainsaw or trimmers. What I want to do at some point, and I don't know that I'll necessarily do that today, but I really would like to try and make a purple worm miniature from scratch. And I was trying to figure out, like, how's the simplest and easiest way to make a purple worm miniature. One, you need a big base, but I still think the easiest way is not to have it coming out of the ground and just to have like a great huge maw on the base with the teeth. I think that's the best way to go. So I might give that a go at some point. I just need to cut a base big enough. Alright, okay, that seems to be there. Right, so we just need I'm going to just take off little balls and then shove them in the holes. Go for the big gaps first, I think. couple of little balls. And I don't know if you can see, I'm just going to drop one in there. Oh, that was something, okay. I can drop a lot more in there. That just disappeared. You can see just how big the cavity is underneath. It actually takes up a lot of space. And just jam that in for now. Get this tool in here. Let's see if we can get it. Will it fit? No, not really. Okay. And just down the back here, huge gaps. I don't know if you can necessarily see what I'm doing, but I am placing it there, and I'm just going to force it into the gap. Oh, I'm going to need a lot more putty in there. It just disappeared. Huge cavity under there. Yeah, I'll turn it around this way, that'll probably be a bit easier for you to see then. So this is where I dropped it in. You can't even see the putty because it's that far down now. It's just disappeared. Ball a little bit smaller, make it, get it in there. Oh, come on. And this is the time-consuming bit. It's just filling up all those spaces. I don't think it's going to need to be perfect in terms of filling the gaps because you're not going to see a lot of it anyway. Smaller balls. I had hoped that I'd squeezed enough hot glue in there to fill up the gap, but it just didn't do it. Going on. You think that hole or gap is big? Just try and imagine what it's going to be like trying to deal with this one in here, which is even larger. It's monstrous. And over here. Drive a truck through that. Push that in there. Alright, well if you start trying to use hot glue to actually secure the base to this, make sure you squirt in a lot more than I did, because it is so much to fill, it's not funny. Still jamming putty in there. My fingers are just not small enough. Yeah, teeny weeny little fingers to get into these things. Alright. Sticking it on the point of this thing actually worked pretty well last time. Let's do that again. Alright. Come here. On the point and in the hole. Alright. Well, that's one of many gaps. That's the worst one. Let's start dealing with that one. You can see that my tool, like, it goes a fair way in. It's a great huge gap in there. All the way down to the bottom, all the way down to the bottom. This is the problem. If it doesn't actually attach to something, it's just going to be sitting in there loose, doing nothing. I'll have to come back to you in a sec. Alright, do it again. Yes, come up to the bottom, right to the bottom, right on there. Squish it in. Oh well, I will have to mix up some more of this. It's going to take a lot more putty than I expected, and probably going to take a lot more time. Come on, go on there. Big blob, see if I can. There we go. In. Now I am trying to press it down so I don't lose the detail in the miniature, but I feel like a lot of the miniature details in this area here you're never going to see anyway, because you won't even be able to get at them to paint them. Well, I doubt I will anyway. Alright, I'm going to mix up some more putty because I run out. So where's my... So last time I made just a small amount, and considering the number of holes and gaps and how far that went and how deep those crevices are, I'm going to make quite a bit up. Right, on the other side. So that's a little bit bigger than the other one. Okay. Just trying to get even amount, that's all. Okay. The time-consuming process. Squeeze and putty together. You can see that there are some gaps over on this one as well that need to be filled up at some point, and I probably will do that. I just don't know that I'll necessarily do it today, just because I don't want to mess around with that piece that I've just done. All that work could be just ruined if I muck with it too much. There we go. Alright, let's start breaking off some pieces and filling this fairly quickly if I can. We were still working on that great huge hoary mound, the crevice that goes forever. Yes. Okay. Is that CK thinking? I've never seen a chat feed so empty. I like it. Well, it's been very, very quiet. It's certainly, they've allowed me to get on with things. They haven't asked me a whole bunch of questions. It's been very, very quiet. I'm a very small channel too. Although it could simply be the topic, you know, assembling a purple miniature, worm miniature is not like, probably not a huge draw for people. And if you know anything about my channel, I do a lot of live streams, and because I do them literally every day, there's usually another live stream every single day, just about, then yeah, it's not like it's anything new on this channel. Come back later. Hi Jack.
Hey. Hey.
Hi Jono. How was it?
Good,
Yeah?
Nice swim. Really hot, man. It's really refreshing.
Gee.
Yeah, water's not too cold. Beautiful.
Blimey. What's that, Jack? Do you have time for a short question and your opinion on it? Of course I do. Yeah, most of these, this isn't like a, dealing with a particular topic or anything. I'm just doing stuff. So, Jack, you asked your questions, I'll answer them, not a problem. I haven't had much to say during this whole stream as it is. You can see it's been pretty quiet. No problem, Jack. Just when you're ready, just put the question out there and I'll answer. Okay, so what's this? Jack, what do you got here? What level do you think the party members should start acquiring artifacts? Oh my gosh. As late as possible. Look, the honest truth is most players are going to want to start accruing or acquiring an artifact as soon as possible. And when you say artifact, I would say, honestly, even one artifact per character at really high levels like level 17, 18, 19 or even level 20 is actually a lot. I've run my adventures right up to level 20 and I mean they like using them, but honestly they don't even need those magic items. They're just there. They're like, it's more about they're used to getting them because they've played so many computer games where they had, to level, when you leveled up you got new gear. That's how it was. So my view is you decide. I'd be very careful about handing out artifacts until they get to a very high level. Chances are you won't even get your group as high as level 17, 18 or 19. And I'll explain to you why. When I was running my campaign that did go right up to level 20, I started off with groups of 12. You know, I started off with like 5 or 6, and then it just swelled. And then it started to dip off. Around about level 7 and 8, it started to sort of trim down a little bit. And the number of people coming to my table sort of stayed at about anywhere from 7 to 8. And then after that, once we started getting into the much higher level play, it dropped down even more, and I wound up with anywhere from 5 to 3 people on any given session. And when I ran my final session, I think there may be 3 or 4 people playing at level 20 when we finally finished that campaign. So the thing is that you chances are you just won't have the players hang around long enough. And the only reason that I managed to get to that point and that level is because I was determined to try and push through and see what it was like to run a game at that level and to build up to that. I didn't just jump there. I counted XP, I calculated everything, you know, I didn't use milestones, so it takes a long time. What have you got here? Mastasinia. If you have 10 fingers, why not wear 10 magic rings? Well, because if you're smart, then you make sure that you have to be attuned to the magic rings, and you make sure they're not having more than 3 attuned items. Yeah, it's a carryover from playing Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 or 3 and playing things like Dungeons and Dragons 4E, and also, you know, video games. You know, the expectation that you'll have like every slot or every part of your body covered in magic items. You'll be dripping, you know, it's dripping with magic items. I don't really like playing that way. I know people do, but yeah. All right, so I'm actually getting there. It's just been a little bit tricky. Just trying to squeeze all the putty into the crevices and pad them down. See, I could probably shove putty in there till the cows go home and still not fill it up. Just keep going though. Does version 3 and 3.5 and 4E count as the good old days? Showering players with magic items, those are the good old days? I don't know, I think, is it Johnny DM, or DM Johnny? I think DM Johnny's got a channel, and he was talking about the good old days, and I think he was talking about before that particular version of the game. I found it interesting that he's actually shifted his focus away from 3.5, and I can kind of understand why. I don't honestly think that Xanathar's Guide to Everything was an improvement on helping to determine when people should have a magic item and how many. I feel like it's trying to work towards the modern concept of how many magic items you have. Mastasinia, yeah, not a fan of the I have a +2 bonus on sneak because I got a ring X, and a +2 bonus on Y because, look, fair enough. I'm using milliput. I'll grab the packet. The details for it are in the description. I've got like affiliate links to just about everything. So this is the stuff. It's really, really cheap, and it takes a long time to dry, which is why I'm able to get away with leaving this and just slowly applying. Simply because I can't do it any other way. The gaps are they're big, but they're just hard to get at. Oh yeah. Alright, it's working. feel like that's going to be a really hard area to complete, so come on here. No! Oh, I just want it done now. Filling gaps in miniatures definitely ranks up there in the sucky part of doing anything. And the fact that people have been hanging around and watching me, I feel really sorry for you, because it's got to be boring as. Ah, come on. It's really tricky, so you want to press it down in there, but you also want to leave it so it looks reasonably tidy, so when you paint it you don't have any bits that don't look right. It's okay, alright. There is a point where I have to just accept that that's as good as it's going to get and move on to the next section, right? Otherwise it'll never get done. When I was doing my psychology training, I believe the lecturer said the first people to die are the ones who are the perfectionists. It's the stress that takes them out. And I've remembered that my entire life since that particular lecture, and been trying really hard not to do that. Okay. I don't really feel like that's doing a great job there, but I suppose it won't matter too much because it is a rocky area. So I suppose I don't need to be super fancy about how I apply my putty. It just needs to fill the gap. Alright, let's keep going. I know it looks like I'm not getting anywhere, but I am. It is actually starting to progress a little bit, even if it seems like it's taking forever. Okay, I suspect if I'd done this the first time round when I was gluing this thing together that it probably wouldn't have fallen apart if I put the putty in, but I think all I wanted to do was just glue it together and then paint it and get it done. Sorry you can't see, it's really hard for me to sort of get at this and then show you as well, just to sort of, I'm using sort of like the side of this knife sculptor to jam the area with putty and then flatten it off. It's kind of working. I feel like this round curved bit is the best one though. It seems to allow me to sort of push things around and smooth things out. Don't have enough putty on just the end of the tool. If I get a bit of putty on the end of the tool, come here, maybe I can just fill that a little bit there. Come on, go in the hole. Alright. I'm just going to scrape off just a little bit. Okay, cool. And now let's deal with it isn't actually as bad as the worst part of this big gap here. Once I get all of the putty in there, it's probably going to be done. Jam a really big bit in there. You know I'm getting impatient now. Yeah. Ha! That worked out well. It's gone down to that level. Right, I'm sorry you can't see what I'm doing, but because I pushed it through there, it's come out at a different point, and it's actually making it easier for me to fill that area, so I'm going to capitalize on that. Come on, go in. So difficult to tidy things up. Okay, I don't know if you can see right in this. This is like one of the hardest locations to get to. And I squeezed it through that big gap into there. And now I'm just trying to pat it down and tidy it up so it looks like it's nice and tidy. Which is probably not, but okay. Let's fill that out. I feel like I should probably jam more in there, but I just don't know how I'm going to do that. It's not too bad. Okay. Alright, let's keep... So now I've roughly got about from here through to maybe here-ish, around this area. Alright, Master Senior, what do you got here? What size is the statue measures bunny ears? Well, the dimensions for it are actually in the picture on the live stream. So the actual dimensions for this particular purple worm, if that's what you're talking about, is actually there. You can see it's right smack in front of you. And I believe it says, is it 3, oh gosh, I can't make out the picture, 3 point something or 3 something inches or 80 millimeters, and wide it's about 75 millimeters or 3 inches wide, the base. So that's the size of it. And let's jam a whole bunch of putty in this hole. I'm going to get some in there as well at some point. go in the hole. Bunny ears made with pipe cleaners could fit. Yeah, I'm sure. Alright, I'll see you later, man. I don't know if I got your name right. CK Thinkin. Thanks for joining us anyway. Right, there's a bit of a gap in there. I don't know if I can get putty in there though. Push it in. Oh man. What's that? Alright, I think that's good enough. I'm moving that out of the way. And do I risk filling some of the gaps in this? I've got a lot of putty left over, so I'm kind of feeling like I should. Let's have a go. Right, that's filled. I'm not sure I necessarily need to fill too much of that, but I could fill inside the mouth. Trying not to cover over the detail, but it's really tricky. Got that. Let's do that again. Alright, that's the mouth. I think it's reasonably well filled, and I've just got along here, there's a little bit of a gap. I think the worst part is just in here, so I'm going to fill that. Well, this is working really well, hang on. Right, I think that's pretty much got the top section all filled, which is done. Do a last check on the bottom section, and that should be it for this particular video, which would be like, should be very long by now. Right, so I can probably fill a little bit more over here, so I will. But I'm going to do like a sausage and see if I can't cheat a bit, because I've got way too much putty left over. and where else can I put some of this? Maybe down in there in a little gap. It's like an awful place to try and squeeze it, so I'm not even going to think about doing that. Let's do the sausage thing again. Sorry. That's that filled. I could probably try and fill a bit more over here. Okay, I think that's enough. A little bit more there. Alright, cool, that'll do. So the base is mounted. I've filled it all up, made sure all the gaps are sort of filled up. I've done the same thing here. When this dries, I'll re-secure it so that it fits in place, because I've created my own sort of little mold on this side, so I've got two good surfaces to glue to. And yeah, essentially that is it. I've got some leftover putty. I'm not sure what I'll do with that. Look, if you found this interesting or helpful, and I don't know, you know, I think maybe the first part of it might have been slightly helpful. I don't know about this part, but if you did, share and like the video. If you aren't subscribed and you want to see more content like this, then just click the subscribe button, or the little bell underneath the video gives you occasional notifications. I do like a video every single day anyway, so it doesn't really matter. If you want to support my channel, just keep watching my videos. I've got more videos that you can watch if you want to. There's a whole bunch of them in playlists all organized. I don't do Patreon, so if you want to support my channel, Patreon's not really the way to go. But in the description there's usually an affiliate link to Amazon. If you buy things online, you pay the same price, I get a small commission, and you don't even have to buy the thing that I've linked to. You just click on the link, go somewhere else, buy something else, and I get the commission and you pay the same price. So it's good for me. That's really the best way to support my channel if you want to keep it going. And look, if you have any questions, I guess your chance was to ask during the live stream. Otherwise, if you think of a question you want to ask about the whole miniature itself, then just put them in the comments later on and I'll answer those questions. I haven't included all of the information that you might need for this particular video. So the miniature itself, where you can buy it from, I don't know if you can still buy it from Gale Force 9. I will check, and if it is available from Gale Force 9, I'll put a link to it. I'm pretty sure you can't buy it on Amazon or other websites online, unfortunately. It's one of those sort of limited series things, so it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit useless to you, I guess, in terms of if you wanted to do this sort of thing yourself. All of the materials and tools that I've used are in the description if you are wanting to know what they are. And really, this is where I will say see you later, and till next time, keep rolling those 20s. So I'm going to head off, guys. I might be back later on. I have the clear transparent sheet for the overhead projector to make a gelatinous cube. So if I come back, I'll probably be making a gelatinous cube. Otherwise, it could be something else, who knows. I've got to go and get myself out of this room. It's just so hot. I need a drink of water, I need some food. But I will probably be back, if I do come back, in about half an hour to an hour. And hey, thank you for hanging out with me and watching my video.